This is another Disney podcast production.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Another Disney Podcast. This is episode number 41.
You know, we have a little fun opening that I created that still contains somebody who never comes on our show anymore. But you just did the most epic self-opening. I feel like that's what we should use.
I feel like that should be our new opening. Yeah, I agree. I think we should just every week one of us should sing our interpretation of it and then let the people decide what they feel is best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were going to be like, no one cares. And I'm going to be like, dang it, I knew we shouldn't have asked.
Dang it.
Okay. Hey, I want to start right off by saying we're recording this a day later, a couple days late, because we had the great privilege of being on with our friends Troy and Mimi over at Disney Assembled.
Yes.
They had us on for their very spooktacular Disney villains tournament. I murdered the title, but it's something like that. But basically, it was your typical NCAA bracket titled championship where we went through. They randomly selected heroes and villains from a film, right? So it was Buzz and Zurg versus Peter Pan and Captain Hook. And then you had to and it was majority rules, and they would transfer to the next round. And
transfer to the next level.
It is a long episode. You might want to go through a couple of commutes to and from the workplace or class, wherever you listen. But it's super fun. That drops Sunday. So if you're listening to this on the day this releases, which is Friday, it will be Halloween is the actual day that will drop. So perfectly timed, since it was a spooktacular heroes and villains tournament style thing. Yeah. Anyway, super great. Troy, Mimi, thanks for having us on. We've had them on a couple of times to do some great things, and it was really fun to connect with them. And so we took a couple of days off because that was a pretty long episode. Yeah. So a lot
of fun though.
Good to be back. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of rivalries, protagonist, antagonist versus another protagonist, antagonist. There were a lot of hard choices. There were a lot of Dave had one group that he was taken to the end.
Yeah, I picked him in the first round. When it came to this, I'm picking these two because I think they're going to win it, and they made it to the final and lost.
Yeah, they did.
And I'll tell you who it is. Nope, you'll have to listen to find out.
Listen. Disney Assembled. Sunday.
Disney Assembled. Sunday, October 31st. Tell your friends. All right, let's jump in. We have a fun little thing to unpack or to drop our opinions on that no one cares about. But you had a great idea of covering just a couple of pieces of news because there were some fun things out of the parks this week. So kick us off with that.
Yes, there were some fun things at the park this week. It was a pretty slow news week, but there were still some things that we can, in the words of Dave, unpack very quickly. Character meet and greets are coming back to the parks. I'm super happy about this. They're not called meet and greets anymore because you're no longer going to be allowed to actually go up and take pictures physically with characters. Yeah. So they have renamed them. They are character sightings. So it's almost like during COVID when Pooh was hanging out in Epcot up on the grassy area by the pond and the flowers. It's kind of like that, but now you can get a little bit closer. So basically you have to take a selfie with the characters in the background, but they're in their usual spots. The princesses are back in Princess Fairy Tale Hall. Mickey's going back to the theater on Main Street. So it's kind of exciting to get some sort of character interaction back.
Yeah. It'll be great, especially for the littles. They were basically stuck with several sightings. Is that what we're calling them?
Yes. Yes. It wasn't even really sightings because you had
Disney.
to know where to look.
Yeah.
And they were still like 3 football fields away. So
Yeah.
it's like, hey, look, you would have had a better sighting if you were watching it on TV,
Yes.
Junior. But there's Pooh.
Sometimes, yeah, like Pooh was like catching butterflies, and Donald sometimes was off in a field fenced way away. Yeah, it was great, but the best ones by far were the ones that they would do up high. So over and where the Chip and Dale are commonly over in Frontierland, up on that kind of passover there near Country Bears Jamboree, which sometimes the Country Bears would be up there as well. And then obviously the railroad station right at the end of Main Street or the beginning of Main Street, depending on how you look at it, Mickey and Minnie, and sometimes the whole staff or crew of that cavalcade or parade, whatever you call it. Sometimes there was the Fab Five would be up there. I don't know if that's true or not. I just kind of made it up on the fly, but I remember it wasn't just Mickey and Minnie and the show. Sometimes it was other types of characters. And of course
there were princesses. And when we were there on Monday, my mom came into town. So we went to Magic Kingdom on Monday. They had the Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, Tigger combo up there. So yeah, they rotated them out.
It's a good time. Sometimes you can see the Pooh characters over at Crystal Palace, sometimes on the sides porch. I don't know what you're calling it. Yep. Anyway, I am also excited. This is like, again, trying to get closer back to some normalcy. Also, horrible name.
Yes, scary. I mean, I don't know who Disney has in charge of naming things, but they need a new team of naming things. I mean, we've talked about this, like Creation Shop in Epcot.
Yeah.
What's that have to do with anything?
I'm pretty sure all of this is being decided by Jim from finance. That's what I'm going with.
I agree. Like Creation Shop, everything in there is already created. Like you can't. Like you just go in there and buy a shirt that's already made.
It should be spending shop. Like that's all I did in there was spend a lot of money for the 50th.
Money shop.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'll drop another quick one that, again, the timing didn't quite work out, unfortunately, but I will be glad for my next visit. And that is I have I can't even think of the best word, addiction to the beignets that have been MIA for over a year, maybe closer to 2. I don't know, from Port Orleans. And so they are back. They are officially back. So if you live in the area, rush over there and get some nice warm beignets. Now at Disneyland, this was one thing that I loved. You could get them at Downtown Disney or in Disneyland. So I loved it. There was always 2 options. At Disney World, you have to go to a resort to get them. So I'm hoping they will find a way to rectify that in the future, but I doubt it. But yes, I'm excited.
Like they're missing a huge opportunity. Yes. Those things are super popular. Like they have 4 parks. You would have thought they could have found somewhere else,
or at the Springs
during COVID when that place was not open.
Right.
Like you would have thought they would have found another place. Like we talked about before, we're hoping when they redo Splash Mountain to Princess and the Frog, maybe they get some New Orleans theming there. Yes. And there's like a weird gift shop underneath Splash Mountain, like when you first come out. Mm-hmm. Maybe they can turn that into like a beignet shop, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, be good.
Yeah. So I'm stoked that it's back. Port Orleans French Quarter.
Yeah, French Quarter
was one of the last hotels to open back up. So I think 99% are open at Disney World again. I think one of the All-Stars, they decided they weren't
sports
opening.
Is still going through a refurb.
So sports is getting a redo, but I think everything else is pretty much open, which is super exciting. Having lived here through COVID and just to drive through Disney property and see everything closed, it's remarkable how far we've come in such a short time. So
for sure,
it's super awesome. I'm glad it's open, and I plan on getting some beignets this weekend. So I will send you pictures. What other news do we have today? Something that excites me. I don't know that it excites most people, but I did see that tomorrow the soundtracks for both Harmonious and Disney Enchantment are coming out. So full soundtracks. I loved the actual song Happily Ever After. I wish they would have released the actual castle show version of Happily Ever After, which they never did. But I listened to a sneak peek of the Enchantment song and Harmonious. Now, the Harmonious looks like it's going to be all the music from the show, which, Dave, we've seen the show. The music is phenomenal. So I'm kind of stoked that we'll have that at our fingertips, at any point. Yeah.
It's a shame you can't see that from your house, because you could time the soundtrack and just play that from the backyard.
Yeah, I wish we could see that one. That one was good. We saw that again on, what day did we go? Monday, because we hit 3 parks with my mom.
Yeah, that's right.
Animal Kingdom, hit Magic Kingdom, went to Epcot to finish the night. We watched Harmonious again. It gets better every time. I like it way better than Enchantment. So I'm glad that we'll be able to get the soundtrack. Yeah,
I listen to those quite frequently sitting in the office, for sure. Okay, I have one more that I'm just going to gloss over because I'm not bitter about it at all. But, Disneyland is getting the Main Street Electrical Parade back. It's going to be running again soon. I think they had stole it from us, and then COVID happened, and I was kind of glad. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, what an exciting. I kid because I am super jealous, because we don't have any nighttime parades anymore anywhere at the world. And so just a little jealous, just being transparent. But hey, Disneyland can have the love. But when you're done with it, can you please ship it back over? We'd love to have it.
Give it back to us. Yeah, I agree. I wish we had some sort of nighttime parade. Now they're getting a seasonal one because they're having the very merriest after hours for Christmas time here, and there's supposed to be a special parade and special fireworks. If you're listening to this, which I hope you are, on Friday, which is tomorrow, when we're recording this, there's actually, and I'm kind of excited about it, between midnight or 11 p.m. and midnight tonight, they are testing Christmas fireworks. So maybe next week I will report back. I may try to go out and film a little bit and put it on our Facebook page.
Yes. Wait, sorry. You mean our Meta page?
Our Meta page.
Our Meta
That's
page.
Right. They were renamed today. That's going to fix all the problems.
I have so many questions. So in case you're wondering, not Facebook the app, but Facebook the company has renamed themselves to Meta. And of course, being a product of the 80s and then growing up watching basketball pretty heavily in the 90s, I of course thought of, did Meta World Peace sponsor you guys? Or
no, he's the new CEO. Zuckerberg stepping down. Now we got Ron Artest as the CEO.
Yay sports. All right, moving on.
Yay sports. But yes, I will try to put something on our Facebook/Meta page just so we can check it out. But I'm excited because, as we know before, the Halloween party and the Christmas party always had special fireworks, and the special fireworks always had perimeter fireworks, which I'm super shocked that the 50th anniversary fireworks have no perimeter. That would have been a grand opportunity to have something spectacular. So
I concur.
I will report back next week. Hopefully I can stay awake long enough to see what's going on outside. So yeah. Bring back our nighttime parade, Disneyland.
There you go, folks. We have a 40% chance of getting a report next week. All depends on Brandon staying awake. I know him, and maybe it's a 30% chance. Just kidding.
Yes, I'll stay away from the rum this week. So
there you go.
There you go.
All right, man. Did we cover the news? And that's the news.
Pretty simple this week. There's not a whole lot of excitement going on at Disney World.
Except the 50th celebration that people are super excited about. But, we've been there, so that's old news.
Yeah, they are. We were there the first day, people. You missed it.
Moving on.
Moving on. So, moving on. Dave and I thought we would do something a little fun just to kind of not even end the show, but the next segment of the show. Obviously, the Disney Genie started here at Walt Disney World, and all the press that came along with that. There's been good stuff. There's been bad stuff. A majority of it that I've seen has been pretty good. It's worked pretty well. Aside from people complaining that they have to pay for fast passes now, that's kind of the only complaint. Yeah. I was in 3 of the 4 parks this weekend, and everyone seemed to be fine. We went to Animal Kingdom on Monday morning, and we rode Flight of Passage to Safari and Everest. We did not buy the Genie, and we waited the longest, maybe 35 minutes for Flight of Passage. So if you plan your day well, you don't have to do it. But we thought it would be fun to take a look at the attractions that Walt Disney World has dubbed the special attractions that you have to pay extra money for, and see if that was the right choice for each park. Does that make sense?
Yes. The dubious selections.
The dubious selection. So
most of them make sense, but I think it's worth going through and kind of unpacking them and talking about, is it worth it? Because I think it's also important to bring up, I know we've talked about this, but they fluctuate in price depending on if Disney deems this a busy time or if it's a weekday or a weekend. It just depends. So it's not unlike the $15 flat fee that you can pay for the rest of the Genie Plus app. These one-offs you'll find out that day when you go to buy it. Basically is the easiest way to say it. Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah. I don't know if there's a range. I'm sure they didn't put a ceiling on it because why would they? If they can charge $30, I'm sure they will. But before we jump into this, shameless plug for our network. Audrey and I over at Plan for the Magic, we talked this week about basically 5 things to think about when planning your trip that have to do with the Disney Genie Plus app and how, whether or not you should do the lightning lanes, whether or not you should pay for the paid tier of Disney's Genie Plus. So definitely worth a listen. It dropped today. So check it out if you're going soon and this is all new to you like it is to me. Again, I'm embarrassed to say this. I haven't even updated the app yet. So I went the 1st, was home by the 4th of October. That hadn't kicked off then. I'm probably not going till no sooner than February. I'm just going to let everybody else figure it out, then watch YouTube videos, read blogs, let's see what the guys over at, my favorite people, Lynn Testa and, I can't think of it's the $12 a year and helps you plan your thing, and they do great at figuring out all the times. I can't think of what that's called, but it's great. Just Google Lynn Testa's company. Gosh. Nailed it. Let me sprinkle some magic out here since that was just such a train wreck. Okay, let's unpack them.
Yes, indeed. So, as most of you know, but some of you may not, there are 2 attractions at every single Disney park that are deemed, I say, more special than Genie Plus Lightning Lane selections. And as Dave said, you pay for that specific attraction, and you pay whatever price it is for that day. So obviously on weekends and holidays, it's going to cost more than it did on a random Wednesday. So really quickly going through them at Magic Kingdom, the 2 attractions are Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Space Mountain. At Animal Kingdom, it is Flight of Passage and Everest. At Epcot, it is Frozen Ever After and Ratatouille. And at, which one did I forget? Hollywood, it is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and Rise of the Resistance. So these are the 8 attractions that Disney has said are most popular, that they're going to charge people extra to be on. So Dave and I are going to just quick spitball and just give our opinions as far as whether we feel that's the right choice or whether some other attraction at the park should have been selected. So Dave, first one, Magic Kingdom, Space Mountain, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Did Disney make the right choice as far as charging extra for those?
I would have to say Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, 100%. Absolutely the right choice. It's typically the longest wait attraction on a daily basis. Sometimes it's the longest wait throughout all of the parks, depending on the day and the season. So I think that is 100% the number one choice that I would have gone with when selecting these 2 kind of paid tier attractions or one-off paid, whatever this is. It's just weird. Now, Space Mountain. There's no doubt I get that popularity for sure. However, I'm going to go back to, I know that Disney probably looked at long-term numbers and, because they have all of that content that they can use to measure what the history looks like. But since COVID, Space Mountain is not something that I've seen absurd lines for. Now, compared to what it used to be like. So I would say one of the things that really didn't change that much, I know it depends on where you go, is Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain, I still think on average, especially during COVID, had a considerably longer wait than Space Mountain did. So I find right now, I find that odd that that's the one they went with, but maybe they're just looking at numbers differently than I see. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train makes 100% sense. I mean, that ride unless you get there first thing in the morning, I mean, there's going to be at least a 45-minute wait for that ride. So that makes 100% sense.
And even that's tricky because I had a friend that I do regular video work for. He went last Thursday and Friday, and he texted me and he was like, man, I'm going to switch parks. He was like, man, we were there at Rope Drop at Hollywood Studios, went straight to Mickey and Minnie's, and there was already a 40-minute wait. And I was like, I knew they weren't staying on property. I'm like, man, on property guests get 30 minutes before you. So yeah. So really, if you're not on property, Rope Drop for you, no matter where you go, especially the popular, there's already going to be a wait. Even rope dropping now looks completely different than it used to.
Yeah, you're definitely already behind the 8 ball if you're not staying on property. And I always find those pictures hilarious where they have I saw it at Epcot when I think everybody was running for Space 220 at that point, but they had a rope holding the normal crowd back, and there's just these guests that are staying on property just leisurely strolling, up by them. And I just thought it was hilarious. And then they dropped the rope and everybody had to fast walk because they don't let you really run at Disney. So everybody was doing the speed power walk to Space 220. But yeah, you're definitely behind the 8 ball if you're not on property.
Yeah, which stinks.
But going back to Seven Dwarfs, I think that makes 100% sense. Mm-hmm. Now, having been in the park on Monday and kind of seeing the lines, there are many other options that they could have gone with, I think, other than Space Mountain. Yeah. Space Mountain, I think, had it always seems to say 35 minutes, 40 minutes, but then you get in line, it takes 20 and you're on the ride. Yeah. It's fine. I think of other rides, like you said, like Splash Mountain. I mean, Disney could have made a killing if they made Peter Pan.
Yeah.
They just charged $7 for people to get on Peter Pan. They would clean up. I mean, that ride is always packed. The line is always 45 to 60 minutes.
And $7, that's 30 cents a second. That's the shortest attraction.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that they could have done Peter Pan's Flight, and it would have been way more beneficial for them than Space Mountain. So I agree with you. Seven Dwarfs good. Space Mountain.
Yeah.
It seems like they just picked a random one.
We'll talk a little bit more about what I think is going to happen as far as these all being set in concrete when we get to another park. So I'll continue that thought once we get there. So, all right. Have we covered Magic Kingdom, or is there something else there
No, I think that's it. Those are the two attractions there. I'll just put a little aside. The lightning lanes for the popular rides are still packed. Lightning lane for Peter Pan looked like a regular line. Yeah. The lightning lane for Haunted Mansion looked like a regular line. So just because you're paying $15 and selecting to go back, as of right now, it doesn't look like Fast Pass used to, where you just stroll on the ride. Yep. There's still a bunch of people. And that goes back to the fact that we've talked about a lot. $15 is not enough for this thing. Everybody will buy it.
100%.
So that's just a little aside for the lightning lane line size. Yeah. So moving on to Animal Kingdom.
Ooh.
We have Pandora, Flight of Passage. Flight of Passage. And then we have Everest. What do you think about those?
Okay. This one's tricky because it would be very hard to give them any flack, especially about Flight of Passage. We know since that attraction opened, I mean, I would say it garnered multiple hour waits for the better part of a year for your standby line. Again, FastPass had a lot to do with slowing that standby line down. It has changed dramatically since the pandemic. But so is it the right choice? Yes. Would I do it? No, and here's why. Okay, so now I said right at the beginning of this, I said, when you think about, well, I didn't say this, but when you think about Animal Kingdom, you're rope dropping and and run walking to Pandora to get in line. That's going to be your shortest wait of the day. Or is it? So the little trick that Brandon Palm taught me, and it's not even really a trick, it's strategy. So the problem with that, so let me back up. So the problem with that going and doing Pandora or Flight of Passage, Pandora at night is a must see. Now I know that you're reliant on park hours being open past dark. That's getting changed literally next weekend when it starts to get dark much earlier. But like that whole area, is it cool during the daytime? Yeah. I'll go as far as saying it's cool during the daytime. It's breathtaking, unbelievable, the wildest things you ever seen, like at a Disney park, mind-blowing, borderline at night. I mean, talk about transforming. It is not literally, sorry, bad joke, night and day difference. And so the problem that I have with that is if you run and do that, or you pay your lightning lane and you get like 2:00 in the afternoon, you got to go back and see it at night. That's when it comes alive. And so I personally wouldn't spend the money on it. And here's why. I would go, Brandon taught me this trick. I would wander back there as it gets dark, explore, find a photo pass photographer, take your pictures, wander around, explore, listen to all the sounds. And then about 3 minutes before the park closes, you go and stand next to the guy or lady that has the little sign that says end of line here. And so we go over there and they know what you're doing, but typically we stand there and like, we love talking to cast members. So we'll chat with them and we're sitting there. And then right when the park closes, we get in line because they close the line. Now I know you're saying, but you're at the end of the line. Yeah, but there's nobody getting in the fast pass or lightning lane in front of you. So only what's in front of you, that's it. And that's typically what, Brandon? 35 minute wait?
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's 4 floors of seats,
right? And
they each have, 16 times 3 is 48. So there's 150 people that get on the ride at the same time.
Like every 6 minutes.
The line moves pretty quick.
Yeah. So that's what I would do, and save your $7, $9, $11, $12, $15, whatever they charge throughout the different course of time and day and weekend. So is it the right choice? Yes. But again, because when you go to get it, I don't know how it works, but I'm assuming you go in and pay. You can't pick your time, can you? You just kind of pay and you get what you get, right?
You pay and it says like next available window. And then like that could be at 7:00 at night.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
You may not be able to ride it then. So
right.
Yeah, you don't get to pick.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So that's my rant about that. Like that's now you can do this with any long wait attraction, but that's kind of the wisest one because it's a twofer, right? You get to see the park, you get to see the land at night, and you get pretty much the shortest wait of the day when it comes to that attraction. Now the next one is Everest. This is just, Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, this is an opinion thing. This is simply chosen because it's the only other really good attraction / ride. I don't want to say attraction, but because you got the safari, it's the only other great ride in the park. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
I mean, I agree. It's really at Animal Kingdom, you have limited options.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else they could do.
Right.
But in true Disney fashion, they're like, well, we have to charge people for something, so let's just stick it on this ride.
I would 100% never pay for that. There will never be a circumstance. First of all, the line is, if it's long, it's like July 4th or Christmas week or Thanksgiving week or New Year's. Like that's when it's anytime outside of that, it's not really an insane line. Plus, it has a single rider line. I mean, there's no reason. And then the icing on the cake, especially referring to right now, it's getting ready to go into refurbishment when? Very soon.
Beginning like right after the first of the year.
So after the holidays. So you're talking they launched this thing and 90 days later, it's not even an option. So remember when I said about Magic Kingdom, I'll come back to about the rides and the attractions that they've chosen. So obviously, I mean, maybe not. I would think once that shuts down, they're going to then, if I was Bob Chapek, I would then find another attraction to offer this Lightning Lane one-off pay thing for. Okay. Now I don't know what that would be, Dinosaur or Safari, but I would think it would have to be one of the two. But you'd be hard pressed to see me. I mean, I get it if you have a little that, you don't like it. They're 7 or 8 and you don't want, or they won't ride by themselves if you go in the Lightning Lane. I mean, well, now it is what it's called. Yeah. I just, I feel like I'm rambling on. You should never, ever pay to ride that, right? And plus it's going to be closed in 3 months anyway. Then what are they going to do? Okay. I'm done.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pandora is great. Just a story. We were at Animal Kingdom. We rode Everest. It was $7 on Monday if you wanted to be in the Lightning Lane, and we got in line and my mom and I waited for 6 minutes to get on the ride. So I could have paid $7 to wait 2 minutes, or I paid nothing and didn't even spend the $15 to wait 6 minutes. So I don't know what they're going to do once that goes down for refurbishment. You have to give people another option as far as paying. I would personally make both Pandora attractions, the Lightning Lane attraction, because
that's a good idea.
As boring as I think Navi River Journey is, that thing always has a line. That line is always 45, 50 minutes. It's just a slow moving ride. It's like Peter Pan. It doesn't turn people over very quick. So if it was me, when Everest goes down, I'm moving the other Lightning Lane to Navi River Journey and just make all of Pandora extra Lightning Lane pay.
That's very smart. I have a feeling they'll go to the Safari, because I know that depending on the time of year, that certainly garners big crowds. It's I mean, most of the rides are family friendly, but that's a big highlight for families. I know it's one of your favorite attractions for sure. So anyway, okay.
Yeah, I still would never pay to get on it though.
Yeah.
And again, like we say this, and we always have to remind ourselves that some people go to Disney World once ever.
We're not the target market.
If you're going once ever in your life, and like your whole day at Animal Kingdom is predicated on you riding Flight of Passage and Everest, please, by all means, pay the money.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
That's right.
We're just saying that because we go all the time, we would never pay it.
No.
That's all. So moving on, we are looking at Hollywood Studios. So we have Rise of the Resistance and we have Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Yeah.
Do you think Chapek and Disney made the right decision as far as paying for Rise and Mickey and Minnie's?
Yeah. I mean, those two attractions make the most sense. The problem that I have is I don't know if people loved it or hated it. I guess it depended on how it worked out for you. I personally never had an issue, even when it was get to the park at 6 a.m. and be ready to, pound the app right at 7 a.m. when they released them. And then when it went to as long as you had a reservation for that day, I personally never had an issue getting a boarding pass. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
And when that went away, I wasn't surprised, because I knew this is something like this is coming. But I still think that system made more sense for that attraction than, because I mean, I know everything's new, but since they've added those queues, especially in the morning, they're floating out past like Muppets, right? I mean,
and you're backstage and
just. So yes, that is absolutely one of the right attractions to do it for, of course, but I don't think they ever should have changed the system from the way it was. But I get it.
I agree.
People were angry. Like, what if you go and you have 4 days and that's your one day at the park and you don't get it? I understand. That's I mean, there are no fans out there. When you think of the word fanatic in Star Wars, it feels like it's a whole different level. It rivals some sports fanatics for sure.
I agree.
And then Mickey and Minnie's, after waiting in that, I mean, there really is no queue for that attraction. I mean, the interior part for that queue holds what, Brandon? 100 people?
Yeah. I mean, it's all outside in the baking sun.
Yeah, there's no shade.
There's no shade. They got little umbrellas set up, but you're constantly moving, so you're always in the sun. It's makeshift queue. So
yeah. And when a downpour comes, you're wet. Make the decision to live in it or get out of line. Yeah. So, and I mean, I think that is one of those. I personally, here come the tomatoes. I think that is the must-do attraction at Hollywood over Rise of the Resistance. Just for me, I like Rise of the Resistance. I don't know if it was overplayed or over to me, I'm not going to do any spoilers because I know several people still haven't ridden it, but when you get out of the ship and the door opens, to me, that is the most amazing part of the entire experience, because it's more than an attraction. It's definitely an experience. But like, as far as the ride goes, it didn't do it for me. I mean, the tech and how they put it all together and the story that's being told, I mean, it's a masterclass of what they've done. It just, I don't know. Like, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing in the world. Like I go back to the first time I rode Flight of Passage, and I must have, in that 3.5, 4 minutes, must have said, oh, wow, like 76 times when I rode Flight of Passage. And I didn't have that same, like, wow. And, like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't think I'm a fanatic, a geek. I mean, I grew up with it. I don't know. And I just feel like now I'm being negative. But, yeah, to me, it's the Mickey and Minnie's is I would wait in line for Mickey and Minnie's. I would not wait in line for Rise. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
I 100% agree. And I think that those two attractions being selected are the right choice. Obviously, they're the most popular at Hollywood Studios. People stand in line for them. The only other one that I could see them switching it to would be Slinky Dog Dash. Again, another super popular ride. There's always a line for it. Like you always say when we talk about it, like you've never waited in that line for less than an hour. Like when there was no fast pass and you just went and stood in line, like it was an hour. So, I mean, I could see them even adding a third for that. Yeah. So they could keep Mickey, Minnie's, keep Rise, and then they would add Slinky Dog. It's a way for them to get a little bit more cash, and people would pay for the ability to get on it. So I think it's true. I would never pay for it. I agree with you about Rise of the Resistance. It's super cool. When the door opens, you get off the ship. Most amazing part of the experience, and you're only allowed to stay there for 30 seconds. So I think it's a lot of wasted opportunity. Yeah, I wouldn't pay $13 for it, and I wouldn't wait in line for 200 minutes. So not to get too off subject, but I think the biggest challenge with the Batu attractions is that the story never changes. Now, I know that's the lot for a lot. I know that's the same way for a lot of them. But when you look at something like Star Tours that has like 50 different options that they've created, like I just wish that there would have been like 2 or 3 stories in Smuggler's Run. Like, and maybe that's something that they'll add moving forward. I don't know, but I just felt like that was a missed opportunity. Cause to me, like that queue is better than Rise. That pre-show is better than Rise. Well, I don't know. The whole pre-show is really part of their attraction, but where you're in there with Hondo, sorry, you're not with Han Solo. And then going in, and of course you're walking in the Falcon. Like that to me was way more like, I felt like I was in the movie, where I think other people have said Rise is like, man, it's like you're in the movie. I'm like, no. Look, it's like I'm on a ride.
Yeah, it feels like I'm on a ride. Anyway.
Yeah. So I agree. So we were pretty much on the same page on that one. So that brings us to our last park.
Here we go.
In Epcot indeed. So we got Frozen Ever After. We all know how I feel about that. And Remy's Ratatouille Adventure.
Okay. Man, it's so hard. Like looking at history, I would not have selected either one of those.
I agree. I would.
Oh, okay. All right. So I would wonder, I thought that may come as a surprise. Now I know, again, pandemic changed a lot of things with wait times, but that's because, look, no fast pass, no like reduced capacity in the parks. Like that changed a lot of wait times, all the wait times everywhere. It truly has. Yeah. We're getting back to a little bit of normal. Well, the new normal, we'll call it. But I still say the two I would choose would be Test Track and Soarin'. Now, during the pandemic, Soarin' has been a much different experience, and the sea lane has changed a lot. They've added a third, is it theater? I guess you call it third. Yeah. I don't know what you call it. A third room for the ride, and that did help a little bit. But like, there were times where like you weren't. Like if you saw 45 minutes for Soarin', you were like, get in line, run. Because I mean, it was very often 75 minutes plus, almost always. Yep. Now, so that's different. And then to me, like I've made this joke, it has changed in the past couple of weeks, but all during the pandemic, every time I went to Epcot, Test Track was never shorter than an hour. Like I have seen Frozen Ever After 30, 45 minutes on average. So I wouldn't have, and then Ratatouille. I mean, I think this is I don't want to say a flash in the pan, but like it's popular right now. That is not an E attraction. Let me just put it that way. I will not say it. I will not be negative. It's not an E attraction. And so over time, it will not carry your E attraction wait times.
Yeah. And the thing that surprises me about it is you still can get a virtual boarding group for it. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you pick? Like, all right, I need to figure out if I'm going to, I mean, I guess because you can jump on at 7:00 and try to get it. Mm-hmm. If you don't get it, you buy the extra lightning lane to make sure you get on it. But then what if you got the boarding group at 1:00? Like, it seems to me that would cause less people to buy the lightning lane because they're like, well, I have two chances to get a boarding group. Like, why am I going to spend $10, $11, $12 when I could just get a group and get on it later? And now Epcot's starting to stay open later. The ride is starting to run a little more efficiently. So they are getting to boarding groups, in the 100, over 100 now, when in the beginning it was just like 60, because obviously new rides always have bugs. Yeah. But I would have selected the same attractions as you. Like we've talked about, Test Track is always long. It does have a single rider line, but that single rider line, if you get in the wrong single rider line, I mean, you could still wait 45 minutes to get on the ride. Mm-hmm. I've stood in line in the single rider line for almost an hour before, just because you never know if the ride breaks down. Two, you just have all even number parties. Yeah. So it doesn't move like a roller coaster.
You love those parties of 3 and 5. Those are your people. Yes. Those are your people. Bring them all.
Yeah. Like when you're on Everest, like the chances of there being 3 people or 5 people or, a single, that's going to be way greater. You're going to get on way faster. Yep. So I mean, I would have chosen Test Track. I definitely would have chosen Soarin'. Yeah. Soarin's a hit and miss, though. I can see why I can see why they didn't make that. I mean, Frozen's pretty steady. Like it's going to be 45 minutes, which isn't bad to wait for, a popular Disney attraction.
And it's in the air conditioning the entire queue.
And it's in the air conditioning. So, I mean, that's a safer bet by Disney to make that money on that. But I mean, Soarin', if you catch it at the wrong time, that's 75 minutes all day. Mm-hmm. And that line does not move quick. I mean, you move up 20 feet and then you sit for 15 minutes and then you move up 20 feet. So I also would have chosen Soarin'. I definitely would have chosen Test Track. Yep. You're kind of limited, just like Animal Kingdom. You're limited in options at Epcot. There's not a lot of stuff. Nobody's paying $7 to get on Mission Space to throw up. Nobody's paying it to get on Nemo. So the options are limited, but
I will say that our Epcot is a tricky one with our little flight of passage strategy. It doesn't work well there because, with such little nighttime entertainment across the 4 parks, Harmonious is one of those things that's worth seeing. Now, if you're a regular or if you've seen it or you just don't care about fireworks, then that's a great time to get in line for some of these attractions. But what's challenging is most of those nighttime spectaculars end or begin when the park closes.
Yes.
And so that's what stinks about, especially about Epcot. It's very rare that like Harmonious plays and then you've got an hour of the park left or 2 hours of the park. Now that happens from time to time, but I would say that's not on the regular. Like recently the park's been closing at what? 9?
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
10.
it's 10 and then Harmonious is at 9:45.
Right. Yeah. So it's, you don't have that advantage like you do. You know, at Animal Kingdom, there's not, I mean, I know they do stuff on the Tree of Life, but anyway.
Unless you're staying at a deluxe resort. Now, deluxe resort people get that extra time. We were walking out of there the other night. We were so confused because like people are still going into attractions and we're like, the park closed like 25 minutes ago. Like, how are they still letting people in? And then I remembered the deluxe, the deluxe resorts have those extra nighttime magic hours. So
excuse us, we're going on the ride.
We're going on Spaceship Earth because we paid
with all of our money
$900 a night to stay at Grand Floridian. So yeah,
Castle View room. Thank you very much. We have a butler.
We have a butler. So yeah, that's all I had.
That was a good choice, man. Great topic. Yeah, I love it.
I dug it.
That was really good.
Oh, and one thing I did see, and this is kind of cool for all my runner friends. I don't know if they've ever done this before at Epcot. After the Wine and Dine half marathon, I think, they are having a Wine and Dine after party at Epcot. So it's a separate ticket event. You have to be running. Obviously, you have to be signed up, registered for one of the races. But starting at 5 o'clock on that Saturday, you can get into Epcot. And then Epcot's going to close at 9 o'clock. And then they have an after party from 9 to 12. So they can access all the food and wine food booths are still going to be open.
Oh, wow.
All the attractions are going to still be open.
Holy cow.
There's going to be specialty cocktails, so they'll all be able to get on Remy without a boarding group, without anything. There'll be, less people than normal in the park, and they'll be able to. It's just like a after hours event, but just for the race people. Which is, I read that today, and I was
awesome.
Wow, I wish regular folk could just buy a ticket to that.
I ain't trying to run. We used to run. We don't do that anymore.
That's right.
Only if I'm being chased.
Exactly.
All right, this was great, man. Hey, catch us this Sunday on Disney Assembled Show. Follow them on all their socials. They're a great father-daughter podcast. If you've seen them on our show, you know exactly what to expect. Super fun, incredible little family that they have. And it's it was a lot of fun. Beware, it is a long show.
Super long. I'm telling you, break it up into segments, but it's good.
That's right.
It's a good listen. Listen all the way to the end.
Love it. Okay, until next week. Happy trails to you. I don't know what that was. I just went for it.
Keep on smiling. That's all we got, folks.